Verse 9, my hand shall be against the prophets who see falsehood and who divine lies. They shall not be in the counsel of my people, nor be written in the record of the house of Israel, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel, and you shall know that I am the Master Yahweh. Those people are in big trouble. And by the way, when it says this idea of divining lies, I have to say this with a lot of strength of emphasis. They don't necessarily have the slightest even thought that they're divining a lie. I don't want us to read into this that they're doing this with malice. They could be, look, I know a lot of you have been to a lot of really, different churches all over the place before you ever came into this. And I know you had pastors and elders in those churches who absolutely were wonderful people and believed every word that they taught with all of their heart and with all their strength. They had no thought that they were sharing lies. That's what Yahweh's saying here. He's saying, look, I don't want you to think that this is necessarily with malice. The problem with the malice is that they want to prophesy out of their own hearts because they'd rather have what they're seeing there and they're filtering than what Yahweh's actually saying. And so their bias of that self-voice, remember we talked about the three voices in your head, right? Yours, Hasatan's, and the Father's. Well, that voice of yours, which has your preferences, I like, I don't like, I want, I don't, why is this, why is that? That voice, your preferences, can skew your vision. It will bias how you read Scripture. And I promise you, if you want to read the Bible and just pick and choose how you want, you can find a justification for everything you could possibly want to do just about. If you're willing to take only the verses that are not, remember, if you take all the verses, you can't argue because the verses all say something together. But if you're going to pick and choose verses out of context, you can have this book say anything you want. You can. Because like the Sunday church people that are doing all they're doing, they base it on their understanding of the same book you're using. And they use verses to justify that. You know that because whenever you talk to your Christian friends, they throw all those verses right at you. Oh, but in Galatians, oh, but in Ephesians, oh, but over here, oh, but, right? And they believe that with all their heart. And that's the problem. And so that's where discipleship comes in. That's where you actually are willing to go under and find yourself an anointed, appointed, and pray, Abba, show me someone who's actually just teaching the word what it really does say, and then be open to receive it whether you like it or not. Can you really honestly say, I want the truth whether I like it or not? Whether I prefer or I'm comfortable with it or it's what I want. I want the truth whether I like it or not, because the I is what gets in all the way. That's why this is all being read and we're talking about the heart, because the heart is the problem. It's out of the abundance of the heart that all that I comes out of. I like, I don't like. Why do I have to do that? That's not fair. I don't want to have to do that. I should be able to do this. Blah, 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 blah. Stop already. Right? And this is why we don't when we should. And this is why we shouldn't. This is why we do when we shouldn't and we don't when we should. We should do something we don't. Why? Because we really don't want to. And the things that we do that we shouldn't, well, because we really wanted to do it. And stop blaming the enemy for all of that. Sure, the enemy probably encouraged you to do it, but he wouldn't have encouraged you to do it if you didn't want to do it. You've got tons of stuff that you want to do that's enough for him to work with, that he doesn't need to have everything. I've said this a million times. If you've never had a problem with alcohol, he's never going to push you to become an alcoholic. Okay, if you never had a problem with stealing or kleptomania or wanting to have other people's stuff, he's never going to tempt you to steal stuff. Because it's not your particular thing. He's going to only encourage you about the stuff that you do want to do. The stuff you like, the stuff that makes you feel good, the stuff that's all about you. And you are not me. You are not her. She is not him. He is not her. You know what I'm saying? We're all individual. We all have our own stuff. And Abba's going to allow the enemy, notice how I said that? Abba is allowing, because everything that happens he causes or allows, he allows the enemy to work with you to expose all of that stuff, that ugly, yucky stuff that's you, to get it out so that you can deal with it. And guess what? Once you've dealt with it, the enemy doesn't push it anymore. He's going to find another thing to push because you're no longer interested anymore. When you stop wanting the thing that you keep doing, the enemy will stop pushing and you'll stop doing it. It's just like anybody that ever quit cigarettes. Until you actually didn't really want them anymore, you weren't going to quit. You tried to quit. I talk to people all the time that quit and people that fail to quit. And it's only one simple difference in all of them. Until they wanted it, it didn't happen. Now, intellectually, they may say, I want to quit. No. I'm saying here in the heart, where you no longer want that thing. Where that thing is now reprehensible, disgusting, I don't want it, it's offensive to you personally, you will stop. Not because it's logic for you to stop, not because it's rational for you to stop, because you actually don't want to do it anymore. Is this making sense? Every single thing we do, I don't care what it is, and you can argue with me all you want, that sin is because you wanted to do it. I'm sorry to be blunt. That goes for me too. Anything that I do that doesn't match up is because I have an inner, deep core something that still wants to do it. You don't do that stuff by accident. Okay? The accidental stuff is like when you accidentally, this has happened to me more than once on Days of Unleavened Bread. I happened to be in a place where I didn't have an assembly to go to. I went to work during the week, and somebody pulled out some donuts. They brought them to work, and I picked one up, stuck it in my mouth. I was like, ah! Because you just forget sometimes that's accidental. Okay? And you catch it immediately, and then you realize you just got distracted. That's accidental. But you don't commit adultery accidentally. You don't steal accidentally. You don't murder accidentally. You know what I'm saying? These are not accidental stuff. You don't break Shabbat generally accidentally. If you decide that you want to go to a restaurant or you want to do this, these are choices you make because what you wanted conflicted with what he wanted, and you were going to win out instead of him. That's not submission. We're going to have a real battle over the submission thing at some point when I actually get into teaching more of the men's disciples or women's disciples and stuff that I want to put on public record. And let's understand, and I've said this last week or maybe the other week, submission doesn't come into play until you don't agree with the one you're supposed to submit with. Let's make that clear. Submission never, ever happens until you and the one you're submitting to are in disagreement. So as long as you're walking along the way and you agree with everything Yahweh says, that's not submission. That's agreement. Which, by the way, is good too. It's good to walk in agreement. Two don't walk together unless they agree, right? They have to have an agreement on how they're going to walk together. So it's good that you agree and you walk together. But see, the submission part, when he wants you to be submissive to him, comes when he says no and you say, but I want to anyway. Now, you submit only if you don't do it. And you let him win. If you're going to spin what he said to justify you doing it, now you're in double trouble. Not only didn't you listen, but now you tried to justify that he was okay with it. That's kind of what this is all going here. Some of you might be thinking, when is the rabbi going to bring this back to what he's reading here in Ezekiel? This is bringing it right back. This is what Yahweh's talking about. These guys who are teaching are basically saying, Yahweh said this stuff that we would rather do instead of what he said, he's actually okay with that. That's what the Yahweh's all mad at here. He's saying, look, I never said that you can bend my word to meet your desires, to twist it to meet what you wanted to say. Oh, but man, I'll tell you what, you get behind a microphone and you're into ministry for a while and you have a congregation you're responsible for, and I'm not just talking about you guys, but like people who are watching this that will call me up from wherever they are, and I can't tell you on a daily basis how many contacts I will get from people that are trying to get the word to say what it doesn't say so they can justify what they want to do. And then they get mad at me because I won't tell them it's okay. They do. Now I'm the ogre. That rabbi, he says, blah, 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 control freak. I'm just saying, no, I'm sorry. The book does. He did not allow for what you want. Don't get mad at me. I'm reading it to you. I'm just telling you what it says. But you're going to get mad at me because you don't want to get mad at him. So you blame the messenger instead. It's okay. I'll take it. If you want to do that, it's fine. It's the job he put me in. But you're not being honest with yourself. The reality is you need the verse to say what you need it to say because it allows you to do what you want to do. Somehow we have to get to that place where I have no dog in the hunt. I've got no agenda. I've got no preference. It's just what he said. Because all of this comes back to people rathering, preferring, and having their own agendas that gets them in all this trouble. And so they're trying to find a way to justify that which is actually not justifiable. And that's the spinning and the bending. And that's what this is, the divining the lie. Now we're going to get back to what Ezekiel said. That essentially is what I believe it means when it says divining a lie. Taking what Yahweh said, reinterpreting it to your own advantage, and then putting it forth to other people. I'll say that again. I believe that when he's talking about here, when it says spoken, divining lies for the people, and they've spoken a divination of lies, I think what they're doing is they're taking what Yahweh said, and they're twisting it and bending it to their own advantage of what they prefer for themselves, and then selling it to the people. That's what I think he's talking about here. You don't have to agree.